2 years ago, my health collapsed on me. What started as some minor stomach issues spiraled into a full-blown physical, mental, and emotional breakdown. And ever since then, I've been quietly struggling through the most difficult, most trying chapter of my life. The goal of this video is to open up and share my story, the things that I've learned, and hopefully save a lot of people massive amounts of pain and suffering, searching for answers in the wrong places. This video is going to be raw, this video is going to be real, and this video is going to be vulnerable because I think that the world needs it. All that I ask is that you watch this video to the end because the information shared here may change your life or the life of someone you love. I am not a doctor. Everything shared in this video is for informational purposes only, and it's what I've learned on my personal journey. So with that said, let's talk about my health journey. I'm going to talk about my story. I'm going to talk about the core principles of detoxification, and then I'll talk about all the lessons that I've learned along the way. All right, so 2 years ago, I was winning in every arena of life. I was jacked. I was in the best shape of my life. I had incredible, beautiful, wonderful relationship with my wife, still do and still did through this period, but we had just recently got married. We were on top of the world, traveling, doing everything together, and also had an extremely successful and thriving business. So in every arena in life, I was winning and I was living a life that I had worked so hard to create for myself. And then things took a massive turn, and I woke up one day with an extreme amount of nausea, thinking that it was some sort of flu or some sort of stomach bug. And little did I know that it was the start of a complete breakdown in my health. So these photos just show some of the extreme lows that I've been in over the past 24 months and kind of a snapshot of what my life has looked like. So I'm going to try to break it down the best I can. So it started with going to my primary care physician as any normal person would. I don't feel good. I'm going to go to my doctor and see what's up. Well, the first thing that they recommended I do is go see a GI specialist. So that's what I did. I went to GI. I did every single test under the sun that they wanted me to do: colonoscopy, endoscopy, CT scan, ultrasound, every traditional test that a GI wants you to do when you're showing stomach symptoms. So went through all of that, and good news and bad news. The good news was that everything looked perfectly fine. The bad news was that I had no answers and I was in the exact same place that I started in. And so went back to my primary care doctor and told them that basically GI did nothing for me. What are the next steps? And they basically had no answers for me. They ended up saying, well, you should just go right back to them and maybe redo some tests and see if there's anything else they can do. So I did. I went back to GI and I was extremely frustrated already at this point. Really didn't want to go back to GI, but I said, all right, if that's what my doctor's telling me to do, I'm going to go back. And so I went back and consulted with them again. And the only thing that they recommended was that they can redo the tests and see if they missed anything. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to look for a different path here. And I started digging. And actually, my mom was the one who said I needed to look down the functional route and look at this thing called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So that was the first thing I explored. I got a SIBO test done from a functional medicine doctor here locally, and it came back positive. And I thought to myself, thank goodness I have an answer. This is what's wrong with me, and I'll just probably need to get some pills or something to fix this SIBO thing. And little did I know that this was only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the world of SIBO and what SIBO actually is. And so went down this massive rabbit hole of trying to heal SIBO, basically being prescribed antibiotics first. So I took multiple rounds of antibiotics, and it did end up helping a little bit. Definitely got somewhat better for a couple months. And then everything came right back. The nausea, the upset stomach, and it came back worse than it did before with other symptoms that I didn't have before. More gut issues, more systemic issues, nerve stuff, brain fog, all this crazy stuff that I actually wasn't dealing with prior to treating the SIBO. I now had other things on my plate to deal with. And so I kept working with this first functional medicine doctor, but really the only thing they were doing was giving me more supplements and telling me to take a million different supplements and not really giving me any true direction on a methodical approach to why I was taking all the things that they were giving me. And so I decided to go back to my primary care physician. And I don't know why I thought this would be the best solution, but I did. I said, I tried the functional medicine route. I pretty much got nowhere. I feel like I'm in worse shape now. And basically, my PCP said they had no answer for me. They literally said they don't know much about SIBO and that I was pretty much on my own. They didn't say that, but that was the extent of this last meeting with my primary. So this is how I felt next. I said, fuck this. I'll figure it out myself. None of these doctors can help me. And so I just went on this journey of basically scouring the internet and doing hundreds of hours of research trying to heal myself on my own. Endless hours of research, late nights, every waking moment that I wasn't basically working and doing normal human things, I was researching how to heal myself, and went down so many different rabbit holes and found myself more confused and overwhelmed and more lost than I'd ever felt before. I felt like I had all this new information, but there were so many contradicting opinions, and one person was saying do this, another person was saying don't do that, that's going to kill you. And it was just too much for someone in a state of chronic illness trying to walk this path alone. And so this was probably when I fell into the deepest, darkest part of my journey, of extreme depression, of hopelessness, of fear, of panic, of anxiety. It's hard to put myself back in those shoes of what I was feeling basically on the daily through this phase, but all I can say, it was emotions that I've never felt before. Was borderline suicidal. My family started to worry about me. I was a different human, the way I was interacting, the way I was communicating, lashing out at people. It was not me. It was a different, I don't want to say devil, but it was something inside of me that was taking control of my being. The part I want to highlight at this phase of my journey is the anxiety was taking control of my life. Yes, I had all these physical symptoms going on, but what really sent me down a spiral was the anxiety of thinking that I would never get better. And this is when things got dangerous, because I started losing sleep. And when I started losing sleep, that's when I started having thoughts of not wanting to be here anymore. And I still remember it perfectly. There was a 2 to 3 week stretch in December of 2024 when I was at my absolute rock bottom. I pretty much didn't sleep for 2 weeks straight. I would go to bed and I would be exhausted mentally and physically, but the anxiety was so heightened in me that I literally couldn't even force myself to go to sleep. I would get into bed and I would try to breathe and settle myself down, and I just couldn't. And I would end up staring at the ceiling for 12 hours and laying there awake. And then the sun would rise and I would have to get up and I would have to function as a human being. I literally felt like I was dead for 2 weeks straight. I would try to get up out of bed and I would basically collapse because my legs were so weak. My body was so weak from the malnutrition of avoiding foods at this point. That's a whole nother discussion, but I was the sickest that I've ever been in every way. I don't know how I made it through this period. It just feels like a blur, but this was the lowest point in my life. And so somehow I made it through that and I found a way to control the anxiety. I was trying different medications, ended up just getting off of everything and coming back to meditation and finding a way to control my breath and convince myself that I was okay and that I was going to find a way through this. And I ended up finding a second functional medicine doctor at this point, which gave me a lot of hope. I met with this doctor. We did a whole call together and came up with a new plan. A lot of new things that I hadn't learned before that this guy was telling me I needed to explore. And long story short, ended up learning a lot from him, but the experience of working with him wasn't great. Wasn't as supportive as I needed. It was more so just telling me what to do and then kind of throwing me to the wolves and be like, this is what you pay for. We give you the plan and you're going to do it. You can check in with us every month or so. And that wasn't enough for me. So I ended up leaving that functional medicine doctor. And at this point, I just started to get desperate. And my wife and I ended up making a trip out to the Cleveland Clinic, which many of you know is one of the most prestigious medical institutions in the world, and ended up driving all the way to Cleveland Clinic, met with this doctor, and he was great, like very understanding, very compassionate, willing to listen to my story. But I asked him how much, he knows about SIBO and how much he knows about chronic illness. He straight up told me, he said, yeah, our knowledge of SIBO is very elementary. And I remember just looking at my wife and thinking to myself, what the fuck are we doing here? And so I ended up making that more of a trip to Cleveland and tried to just enjoy the time with Shan while we were there. And basically nothing came out of that. He ended up prescribing another antidepressant to try to calm my gut down, which I understand the concept behind it, but it was just another dead end. And so decided to give one more functional medicine doctor a shot. And this one was actually very promising. I built a good relationship with them. I think they do amazing work. I have nothing against them, but still wasn't giving me the full path of what I needed to heal. And so I picked up some more tips and tricks. I learned some more stuff from working with this one, but ended up moving on again. And this is when I started to, again, start to feel hopeless and lost and not knowing where to go next. And somehow the stars aligned at this period, because my brother-in-law actually started to ask me about my journey and ask me about the specifics of what I've done, what I've tried, and ended up introducing me to a group of people that have honestly changed my life. And this is when I got introduced to the world of detoxification. So I know that was kind of a long, drawn out map of my journey, and there's so many ins and outs of the last 2 years that this doesn't even cover, but I wanted to paint somewhat of a picture of what my journey has looked like. And so I can finally say detoxification is the answer that I didn't even know really existed. Even being in the trenches of this functional and natural health space, even some of the most esteemed natural health practitioners aren't really well versed in the true art of detoxification. And so, like I was saying, when Trevor, my brother-in-law, introduced me to Josh Mason, who is the owner of the Detox Dudes, and his story, I just felt this deep sense of, wow, I finally have found my people. This is who I need. And I just dove straight into everything that Josh and his team have to offer. I started coaching with them. I went on a 6-day retreat in California with his team. I fully immersed myself in this world of detox, and in just a couple of months, it has completely changed my life. So I'm finally beginning to understand the full picture of what it takes to actually find my health again. And so the goal of this video, without diving too deep into the weeds, is to just give a 30,000-foot view to point you in the right direction if this is something that you're struggling with, if you have a loved one who's struggling with their health, if someone in your life is struggling with their health, this video will help. And so here's the roadmap. A lot of this is pulled directly from what Josh and the Detox Dudes teach. And out of respect to them, I'm not going to dive too deep into each section. I highly recommend you reach out to their team if you are further interested in any of the stuff that I talk about here. So what I'm going to do is go over each pillar basically here, which starts with drinking clean water, eating nutritious food, cleansing the colon, healing the gut, binding the toxins, flushing the liver, killing the pathogens, removing heavy metals, stacking supplements, supportive modalities, nervous system regulation, and the energetic side of detox. So diving right into it, water is so important. You need to be filtering your water. Do not drink tap water. The best types of water that you can drink, number one, is spring water. If you can get it directly from a spring, if you live near the mountains, that's going to be the number one. The next best thing is going to be distilled water. You can buy a water distiller for your home. It's pretty expensive, but it's something I'm planning on doing in the future. Right now, I have a reverse osmosis, which is the third option here, which is still a very great option. You can get a reverse osmosis machine that hooks right up to your water system. You can get a good one in the $400 to $500 range, and happy to send you the link to the one I have if you're interested in that. So when you filter water, it's going to take out the toxins, but it's also going to take out the minerals. So you're going to want to make sure you remineralize that water with sea salt, with electrolytes, with different types of compounds to make sure that you're still getting the minerals in your water. Hydration is more important than you realize. Every part of our body, in order to function properly, needs hydration. Your cells will not function if they are not hydrated. So drinking tons of water, more than you even think. Like I drink, I want to say close to 120, 130 ounces of water a day to keep myself hydrated, to keep things flowing. Water is the foundation to a healthy body. So the next thing after water is food, and making sure you're getting the maximum amount of nutrients from your food. And so there's a lot of debate out in the health space of what the perfect diet is. And the truth is, there is no perfect diet. Everyone's body is different. Everyone has different needs for what foods they do well with, what foods they don't do great with. So you need to experiment for yourself. But there are some universal laws of food, which is you want to minimize processed food as much as possible. It is absolute garbage. It is full of shit. Yes, you can still enjoy some stuff here and there, but the bulk of your food should come from whole foods. Organic, one ingredient foods are the best thing that you can consume as a human being. You'll also want to minimize inflammatory foods. So gluten, dairy, lectins, these are all things that you should try to avoid as much as you can. Obviously, some people are totally gluten intolerant, dairy intolerant. But for even the majority of the population, eating too much gluten and dairy is very inflammatory for the body. And the less that you can consume, the better your body will be able to function and be able to fight off disease and be able to be in a better, healthy state. You'll also want to make sure you minimize sugar as much as you can. Obviously, processed sugar is the worst. You want to cut out as much of that as you can. But even from healthy fruits, there's a lot of fruits that are higher in sugar. And although fruits are generally healthy for you, you don't want to eat too many of them because that sugar does definitely add up. Another thing that I've started doing that is extremely helpful is juicing. So buying a bunch of organic produce and getting a juicing machine for yourself. reach out. I can recommend a good one if you need help in this direction. What I do is I make a bunch of fresh juice every morning with cucumbers and celery and apple and lemon and parsley and all kinds of stuff, carrots, zucchini, all these vegetables and fruits that have a ton of nutrients and a ton of minerals. And this is going to flood your body with nutrients first thing in the morning. And I always feel amazing with that juice being the first thing that I consume each day. All right, next up after food is healing the gut. You may have heard this phrase before, but the gut really is a second brain. It is connected to everything in your body. When your gut is not healthy, you are not healthy. And I've learned this firsthand. Learning the difference between the small and the large intestine is very important. So when we refer to the gut, we're basically referring to everything from your mouth all the way down to your ass, right? Starts in your mouth, and whatever you excrete, everything in between, that is considered your gut. The biggest portions are your stomach is a big one, but the small and the large intestine are very important to understand and important to take care of. Your large intestine is also known as your colon, and it is the final part before you excrete the waste out of your body. Whereas the small intestine is directly connected to the stomach. Stomach pumps food and nutrients into the small intestine. Small intestine absorbs those nutrients and then kicks the rest of the waste into the large intestine to be eliminated from the body. So that's kind of an overview of how the system works. And just understanding that alone will put you ahead of a lot of people, because I had no idea what the difference even was between the small and the large intestine, but very important if you want to make sure that your gut is healthy. So you need to heal both the small and the large intestine in order to detox effectively. If your gut is a mess, it's going to make every other part of detoxing not effective at all. And so the goal of healing the gut is restoring what are called tight junctions. So you can think of basically all the cells that make up the lining of your intestinal walls. When those cells get degraded from toxins, from pathogens, from shit that's not supposed to be in your body, it starts to break up those junctions. And this is what is called leaky gut. And this allows food particles and toxins and all kinds of shit to basically leak through the membrane of your gut and causes all kinds of systemic issues, inflammation, brain fog, anxiety, stomach problems, nausea, like all kinds of stuff. When your gut is a mess and it's leaky, you're going to have all this other cascading negative impacts in your body. And so another big part when it comes to the gut, and this is something I've learned from the detox dudes, is mast cell stabilization. So a mast cell is basically a white blood cell in your body. Mast cells release a compound called histamine, and histamine can lead to all kinds of symptoms, skin issues, brain issues, muscle issues. If you don't get the mast cells under control and you don't control that histamine, your body is just going to be reacting 24/7 to everything that you put in it, including food, including supplements, even the things that are meant to try to heal your body, you're going to be reacting to. And I was stuck in this loop for so long trying to shove all these supplements into my body when I simply wasn't ready for them yet. And what I had to do was get on a medication that's actually very safe. It's called ketotifen. And this has allowed my mast cells to calm way down and bring my reactivity as a whole way down. And I'm about 2.5 months on ketotifen now. And it is night and day in terms of my body reacting to everything. I'm able to tolerate more foods. I'm able to tolerate more supplements. I'm able to actually get further down the detox road because my mast cells are stabilized. And so I highly recommend looking into that, because that was a huge missing link for me if you're constantly reacting to everything that you try to use to heal yourself. Last thing is gut healing smoothie. I have one of these every day. Some coconut milk, mega mucosa is a great supplement to look into. Collagen, aloe vera gel straight from a aloe vera leaf, and a bunch of other things that the Detox Dudes actually has a really great gut healing smoothie recipe. Happy to share that if you're further interested in making that smoothie for yourself. But that is like core for me every day, and that's helped massively in healing my gut. All right, so the next pillar to focus on is cleansing the colon. And there's this saying that death begins in the colon. And this scared the shit out of me when I first heard it, and it should scare you too, because if you have an unhealthy colon, you are an unhealthy human. All of our colons get extremely backed up from all of the years of unhealthy food and poor digestion, and all this stuff just builds up in your colon, and it basically becomes a breeding ground for pathogens and bacteria and parasites and all these things that can thrive when your colon isn't moving properly. And so there's some core methods to cleaning the colon that you can do your own research on: enemas, colon hydrotherapy, saltwater flushes, intestinal cleanse kits. I would look into the Zen Cleanse one. That's a great one that I've tried. Also, taking magnesium at night is something that I do to help with the bowel movement the next morning. And we're also all very deficient in magnesium as a whole. So it's a mineral that you'll want to get as much as you can in. And if it can kill two birds with one stone, help you move things along in you, and also give you the magnesium that your body craves, it's kind of a 2-for-1 there. So next up is binding the toxins. So binders are these negatively charged substances that basically help vacuum out all of the toxins that are floating around in your body and in your cells. And so they're negatively charged, and they bind to positively charged substances, toxins, pollutants, anything that really shouldn't be in your body. Some of the best types of binders are charcoals, citrus pectins, HMET, and there's a lot of different other ones. So I would do some research on all the different types of binders and when you should take them and how you should take them. But as a general rule of thumb, they're best taken on an empty stomach and 1 hour away from any food and supplements, so that it doesn't bind to the nutrients that you're trying to put into your body. So just make sure you take them away from food and supplements. All right, next up is flushing the liver. The liver is one of the most important organs in the body. Think of it as a giant oil filter for your body. So when your oil filter in your car isn't working properly, your whole car basically breaks down, right? So you got to make sure that your liver is healthy and that it's able to do its job properly. Because if it's not working properly, you're not going to be able to detoxify effectively at all, because your liver is just going to be so backed up with shit. So a couple different things you can do for the liver. You can take different supplements like Tudka, like other types of liver supplements. You can do liver cleansing kits. So like I was saying before, Zen Cleanse is a great brand. They have a liver cleanse called Zen Cleanse Forgive. And then Global Healing is another great company. They have another liver cleanse that I've done as well. So I've tried both of these and they're both good. Green apples and parsley are also great for the liver. So I add these to my juice every morning, and they're great for getting nutrients and also great for assisting the liver. And so when you do these liver flushes, you're going to have liver stones come out of you. So these are basically stones that are clogging up your liver. So just a warning on this next slide, I'm going to show some liver stones that came out of me. So if you don't want to see, then fast forward the video, but it's not too gross. They're basically these peanut to like walnut size stones that come out of you. And I had probably dozens of these come out of me, and these were the biggest ones. So I wanted to take a photo of them, because it's crazy to see these kinds of things come out of your body. But they say you're supposed to keep doing these liver cleanses until you get all of these stones out of you. So I've only done 2 of them now. And so I plan on doing a lot more until I'm no longer even seeing these come out. I think Josh said he's done like 14 of these cleanses. So definitely not something where it's just like one and done. You want to keep doing these until your liver isn't backed up with all this shit. All right, next up, killing the pathogens. And this is probably the most talked about thing on social media right now, especially like the whole parasite discussion. We have pathogens living inside of us. Like all of us have them. There are good ones, there are not so good ones. And the not so good ones are many times the root cause for so many health problems that all of us have: gut issues, brain issues, skin issues, muscle issues. There are all kinds of different pathogens that live inside of us: bacteria, viruses, fungus, parasites, mold. And there are many different methods of removing these pathogens from you. Antibiotics are an option. This is a very heated discussion of whether or not antibiotics are actually the best way to remove these things, because antibiotics can have many negative effects on the body as a whole, especially broad spectrum antibiotics, where it attacks multiple parts of your body. It destroys your gut microbiome. So I would tread very lightly on the antibiotic side for killing any type of pathogen. But sometimes it is necessary. So I'm not completely against antibiotics, but I think they have a time and place. I would just be very weary of them, because I was on multiple rounds of antibiotics in the beginning of my journey, and I think it led to more harm than good. And so there's a natural alternative to antibiotics: herbal antimicrobials, all different kinds of herbs, oregano, berberine, neem, all kinds of different herbs that will basically target bacteria and parasites and kill them. So look into those if you are struggling with any sort of pathogen in you. Biofilms is another huge part of this, and it's something I didn't learn about until later on in my journey. These pathogens can basically form these shields in the lining of your gut, and what they'll do is they'll all basically communicate together to form this mucus like membrane over them, so that when you go in and you try to kill them with antibiotics or antimicrobials, they're basically protecting themselves. So you have to break down these biofilms, and there's all different kinds of ways to do it. I would look up different types of biofilm busters. There's different supplements you can take to make the killing phase more effective and actually reaching the pathogens inside the biofilms. I want to talk about SIBO quick, because I think people are stuck on this buzzword. I think a lot of people focus just on this SIBO issue, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It certainly kept me stuck for a long time, thinking that that was the only thing wrong with me, when there's probably dozens of things that is at the root of my chronic illness here. There's a lot of different ways to treat SIBO and a lot of different theories of why it exists. All I would say on this topic is don't get stuck on thinking that SIBO is the only thing that you need to solve, because there's likely many other things that your body needs, and SIBO is just one of those parts. It's just like the tip of the iceberg, basically. And then lastly, chlorine dioxide is a fascinating compound, and there's a whole lot of debate on this compound. I would do your own research on it, but incredible stuff that I've seen personally. I would start with the documentary, The Universal Antidote. They basically used it to cure all kinds of diseases and ailments in third world countries. I know that it was used to treat malaria. It was used to treat all kinds of stuff. And the Western world has kind of shoved it under the carpet. It's very interesting, because a lot of well-respected doctors are now starting to get behind it and do a lot more research behind it. So this is something I'm going to be diving further into, and I will probably naturally be giving my own take on it. So I just wanted to include it here for something that you can look into. All right, next up, removing heavy metals. So heavy metal poisoning is vicious. This is something that I haven't dove too deep into, so I want to tread lightly because I don't have a ton of knowledge on it. But what I can say is that environmental pollutants, traffic fumes, air pollution, all these things lead to the accumulation of heavy metals inside of our body. Mercury and aluminum being the most common that really fucks people up. And I recommend listening to Josh's story on this, because mercury poison was the thing that really almost ended his life, and was the thing that he needed to address first in order to basically bring his systems back online. So I don't see this being a huge part of my own sickness. Maybe it is. Maybe I'll realize that once I get further down the line with heavy metal chelation, that I'll see a drastic difference in how I feel. But a lot of people suffer from this, especially if people are dealing with extreme panic, anxiety. I would really look into this because it could be something that you're overlooking and thinking it's a different disease when these metals can, like I said, they can be vicious. So the important thing to note is that you want to focus on the previous phases before this one. So healing your gut, making sure your liver is in good shape, because chelating these heavy metals from your body is intense, and it takes a lot of energy and a lot of stress on the body to pull these, especially from your cells. So just wanted to add that note in there. And then I would highly recommend looking into removing any metal or mercury fillings in your mouth, because this could only be adding to all of this. And so I actually went to a holistic dentist and got a mercury filling removed from my mouth. It was the only filling I had, but I got that sucker removed, and the the process was crazy. They had to literally like dress me in head to toe in protective stuff just in case like mercury flew through the air and came out of my mouth flying. It was quick, it was easy, it was painless. So I recommend finding a holistic dentist that can do this and just check it off your list and get that metal out of your mouth, because it's only going to help you in all of your efforts in detoxing. All right, next up, supplements. And these are specifically supplements that are meant to regenerate your body and regenerate your cells. These are supplements that Josh recommends. Again, I'm pulling this directly from what they teach. So if you want to do your own research on them, feel free to do so. But just some on the list here. Lithium orotate is good for calming the nervous system. Magnesium is involved in nearly every metabolic process in our body. And like I was saying before, we're all massively deficient in magnesium. So definitely worth getting some form of magnesium in your body every day. Elk antler is another great one for bone, for muscle, and for nerve support. Marine phytoplankton, very interesting one. This contains almost every mineral in our body that we're lacking. And it's something that I'm definitely going to look into. I haven't tried that one yet, but that's on my list. NAD is another really important one. It's heavily involved in DNA and cell repair. And then peptides, not really a supplement, but peptides are a fascinating space. There's lots of research behind them, and I know that they're used in a wide variety of different cases, from healing injuries to healing the gut to healing the brain. There's all types of things that peptides can help repair and regenerate in your body. And so I just wanted to add this slide here because this is what you don't want to do. You don't want to buy hundreds of different supplements. I've spent way too much money, and I just have a shit ton of supplements that I probably haven't even used half of these. Take them one by one. There's a rule of thumb that I've learned from Josh, is that you really shouldn't be taking more than like 8 to 10 supplements at one time, because you're just overloading your body, and your body doesn't need all that. And it's hard to actually measure what supplements are doing for you if you're taking a million of them at once. So focus on a couple and see if it helps you, and then move on and rotate and work your way through learning what each supplement does for you. Don't go crazy and drain your bank account like I did to get every supplement on earth. All right, in terms of supportive modalities that you can include in your detox protocols, some of the things that I do personally: infrared sauna, amazing; red light therapy, Epsom salt baths. I take these a couple times a week. Per our discussion about magnesium earlier, Epsom salt is full of magnesium, and your body is basically soaking in it when you take these baths. So highly recommend doing those to get a ton of magnesium in you through your pores. Meditation is a huge one that I have been doing for years, but kind of inconsistently. I do this every morning now. I put my headphones on, I put some calming music on, and I just sit there for 20 to 30 minutes before I start my day. And it's a great way to ground myself and ground my nervous system. Blue light glasses are another big one. I've been wearing a company, they're called Raw Optics, very high quality blue light blocking glasses. I highly recommend checking them out if you want the real deal. Like these are, you can get some cheap ones off Amazon, but the ones that I actually wear in some of my videos, those are the real deal, and they will help you with your sleep. They'll help you with your focus and just feeling less drained during the day from all the blue light that's blasting from our screens. So highly recommend getting yourself a pair of those. And then another one that I do a lot is rebounding. So I have a mini trampoline that I jump on. I actually keep it in my basement when I'm working out down there. So your lymph system is actually your body's way of draining all of the toxins out of your blood. And when you're jumping up and down on a trampoline, you're basically breaking up the lymph in your body and allowing it to drain more easily. And so that's a great practice that I do regularly, is jumping up and down on a trampoline. All right, this is a super important one, nervous system regulation. So you may have heard that there's two parts to your nervous system. There's your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system. So you have your what's called fight or flight system. Basically, our bodies are wired to either fight or flee from danger. And you want to make sure that part of your nervous system is not triggered often, because that can lead to a lot of issues, especially issues with the gut and with digestion and with anxiety. You want to try to keep yourself in a parasympathetic rest and digest state so that your body knows it's safe when you are digesting food. When you are trying to heal, your nervous system needs to be in a state of parasympathetic in order to maximize healing. So highly recommend just looking into the difference between those two and how you can help get yourself into parasympathetic states more often. A big part of the nervous system is the vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs down your entire body, basically the nerve between your brain and your gut. And the ways that you can support this nerve there's many different ways, but some of the ways that I do are slow nasal breathing, just taking time throughout the day to breathe and to calm yourself down. Humming and singing is another great way to activate your vagus nerve and support it. Listening to calming music, walking in nature is another good one. Cold plunging is another great one, or even just splashing cold water on your face is a great way to support the vagus nerve. Lots of different ways, but the vagus nerve is super, super important to make sure you're paying attention to. Another great way to support the nervous system is moving and exercising daily, lifting weights, running, walking, any of that, meditating daily, and adequate sleep. I cannot emphasize this one enough. If you are not sleeping, you are not recovering, and you need to find a way to let yourself rest and let yourself recover. And staying on a consistent sleep schedule is super important. Going to bed at the same time, or relatively the same time every night, waking up at the same time each morning. This is going to allow your body to get into a routine and really, really help you with your sleep overall. All right, let's talk quick about the energetic side. And this is a little more esoteric of a topic, but I do think it's important. I don't think it's as necessary to basically get you out of a state of chronic illness if you are suffering. But it is something that goes hand in hand with all of the physical parts of detox. And so I'm just going to read off these bullet points, and you can dive deeper and do your own research, because there's even these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullet points. There's enough here to talk for the next 5 hours. But just look into these and you'll go down a rabbit hole on each of them. Astral versus etheric, boundaries and protecting your energy. Food and supplements being only as healing as you allow them to be. Planetary forces and energetic healing, inner space techniques, IST. Look into Clair Vision. They're a school that teaches all this stuff, and something that I'm going to be diving deeper into myself as well. So there's a whole nother part to healing, and it's not just physical. There's a lot of emotional and energetic work that needs to be done in order for you to really live the most sovereign life, right? You need to make sure you're optimizing on both sides. All right, so lessons that I've learned from all of this, and there's a lot, so I'm just going to rattle them off here. So, what I believe actually led to my illness. This is all just speculation. Like, who knows what actually made my health collapse? I think it was a number of things. Number one, I think anxiety was a huge one. I've suffered from social anxiety my entire life. It's something that I've struggled with throughout high school, throughout even in my childhood, something I've had to continually work on and to some extent still struggle with it. I think a lot of people struggle with social anxiety, but it's something I've definitely tamed and I've been able to manage a lot better. But I think not dealing with it, it's just compounded and so many of my thoughts really made me sick. I truly believe that. I think my thoughts have made me sick, and learning to quiet that mental chatter is paramount to healing yourself in general. One thing I want to note on the social anxiety stuff is that introversion, like being an introvert, and being socially anxious are two different things. And it took me a while to learn that, but I'm a very quiet person, but that's okay. So I just want to let you know, if you're more introverted and you're more quiet, but you're also shy and socially anxious, you can separate those two things. They don't have to like coincide. You can be very introspective and very introverted, and that's the way that you operate. And you can also be a very confident and outgoing person when you need to be. It's where you get energy, right? That's the definition of being introverted or extroverted. If you get energy from being by yourself and thinking through your thoughts and being away from people, then you're introverted, right? If you get that energy from being around people and you need the energy from other people, then you're extroverted. So I think it all just comes down to self-awareness and understanding yourself better. And once you do, you're able to navigate through life better and be able to really start to calm that anxiety. So I know there was a lot on that point, but I wanted to make sure I cover that enough. So anxiety, I think, was the first one. Poor diet and eating habits, I think, was another massive one. I think I think it just wrecked my digestion. I'm someone who did a lot of bodybuilding in my teens and early 20s, and I would just be pounding food late at night. And now I know like the dangers of that, of all that food sitting in your stomach at nighttime, just like slowing down your digestion and becoming a breeding ground for bacteria and other stuff that you ultimately don't want in your body. So making sure your diet and your eating habits and your digestion is strong, I think, is very important, because I think it led to a lot of the gut issues that ultimately manifested in me. Third one here is stress. And when I say stress, it's not always bad stress. And I had to learn that distinction, because I naturally have a lot of stress on me as an entrepreneur, as someone who is responsible for the livelihood of other people. You're going to have stress on you. And I think I didn't manage that stress well enough, and it ultimately taxed my nervous system too much. And I think that just led to a lot of different problems. So stress is normal. Stress is going to happen in life, but you need to make sure you're finding a way to manage that stress effectively. And then finally, I think toxins in general, just going back to the idea that we live in a very toxic world these days. And I think just naturally being in the environment as a human being, you're going to be exposed to these toxins, and they're going to accumulate in you. And the longer they accumulate, the worse things are going to get. So you need to find a way to excrete these toxins out of you by pooping, by peeing, by sweating, by breathing. Like, those are the pathways that you excrete toxins. So you need to make sure that all of your body is flowing, right? You need to make sure these toxins are constantly being excreted out of you. So that's what I think ultimately led to my sickness. And by no means am I back to 100%, but I am definitely trending in the right direction now. And I understand these 4 points much better. And I am extremely dialed in and making sure that none of these fall by the wayside. And I'm constantly paying attention to all of them. Second lesson I learned is that our healthcare system has many flaws, and it's up to you to take control of your own health. No one is going to do it for you. You can have support of many different doctors, many people in your corner, but at the end of the day, this shit is up to you. You need to take control of your health. There is no alternative. With the world we have created for ourselves, you need to learn the universal laws of health and how to heal yourself. And that's why I'm so passionate about health becoming a huge pillar of this podcast and making it so much more than just business, because business is great, wealth is great, but if you do all this work to get wealthy and you don't take the time to learn how to stay healthy or get yourself healthy if you're not healthy, that's your bottleneck, and it will always be your bottleneck. And you need to keep health at the forefront and keep it as a priority in your life, because it's all you have. It is all you have. And so I don't want to bash our healthcare system too much, because everything has flaws in life. There's millions of problems we have in this world, but it's up to you. Like take control, like be high agency and put in the work to learn these things, and you'll have a tool belt that will not only help you for the rest of your life, but will help everyone that you love as well. So that's what keeps me motivated. All right, another lesson. This is a universal law that I've learned. Your body is always trying to heal itself, and it's your job to figure out what it needs. That's the game of detox. I'm figuring out what phase your body needs. And that's something I didn't really dive too deep into, that the order of operations, which I kind of presented it as in this video, it's very important to go about this detox process in a certain methodical way. Focus on healing your gut. Focus on getting your colon moving. Focus on getting your liver in check. Focus on killing the parasites next. Then go into heavy metal chelation. Like, there's a process for a reason, and that's the biggest thing that I've learned from Josh and from the team. That is a missing link for a lot of people. You need to figure out what your body needs at this exact moment and give it that before moving on to the next step. And that's why this is an art as much as it is a science. You need to feel into yourself. You need to do the work to understand like how all of this works together. And by the way, I'm still trying to figure out, I'm by no means an expert in this. And this is me just trying to like pass on the information to you guys. Next, spend the money. There is nothing greater you can invest in than your health, because if you don't have your health, you have nothing. And I know this is easier said than done for a lot of people. I know others are less fortunate in certain financial situations, and it's hard to say, yeah, just spend the money. But at the end of the day, there's nothing else you can spend your money on if you don't have your health, right? Like that's number one. So I've spent well over, I want to say $100,000 probably at this point, in terms of all the investments I've made in my health and my coaches and my supplements and my food and my water and everything. Like, I have literally made it a priority at this point that a portion of my income will always go towards this stuff and keeping myself healthy and learning the newest things in the health world, and making sure that I'm continuously leveling up and investing in my health, because again, there's no better use of money, in my opinion, than on the health of yourself and the health of the people that you love. All right, continuing. The most qualified people to give advice in the space are the ones who have been through it themselves. And this is why Josh and the detox dudes are exploding right now, because they have the formula. He has been through the hell. He has been through the trenches. He is someone who has walked the walk. And if there's anything I've learned in my journey, it's that you need to find these people, because they're the ones that you can trust. Like, you can be the most well-accomplished, esteemed doctor in the world, but if you're all book smart and you haven't actually like been through this stuff yourself, with your back up against the wall of like needing to figure this out, there's just like not enough motivation to dig deeper and actually find truth in this industry. And I think that's why I'm so attracted to people like Josh and others who have just been through it, man. And all they're doing is just passing on the stuff that works. So yeah, find those people. And again, start with the detox dudes, because I know I'm plugging them a lot in this video, and I'm in no way like sponsored by them, at least not yet. I'm sure there's partnership stuff that will happen in the future, but this is just me like literally telling you that I have been through it all, and I would not be going this deep with a group of people if I didn't truly believe in the way that they do things. So that's all I'll say on that point. All right, next one. I've noticed many similarities between entrepreneurship and reclaiming my health. It takes an unbelievable amount of work, and you need to stay consistent for a long time before seeing real results. I think that's more of just a truth in like life, is that all of the good things take more work than you think and take longer than you think. And it took me a while to actually adopt that mindset, because I had that mindset for entrepreneurship. Like I wouldn't have been able to become successful as an entrepreneur if I didn't have that mindset on the business side. But for whatever reason, I wasn't following that same mindset on the health side. And as soon as I took that approach of knowing that things are going to take long, I have to stay consistent, I have to have a coach, like that was a massive unlock for me to actually start seeing like real results. So if you're an entrepreneur, it'll be a lot easier because you'll be able to come at it through that mindset of knowing what it takes to actually make this stuff work, because it's not a magic pill. Like none of this stuff is a magic pill. It's all a process. It's all of a way of life. And in order to actually see the fruits of your labor, you have to keep doing it, and you have to do it over and over, and you're going to fail at stuff, and you got to get back up, and you got to try again, and you got to try something new, and you got to look at it from a different angle. And that is actually how you heal. That's the mindset that you need to have if you're going to go down this road. All right, next one. Physical symptoms will manifest from the thoughts you have in your head. I touched on this a little bit earlier. Your thoughts have the ability to make you sick. If you do not put in as much work on the emotional and mental side as the physical side, you're going to stay stuck. Your thoughts are more powerful than you realize. As Joe Dispenza says, another really great figure, specifically in the meditation space, he says, thoughts can make you sick, but thoughts can also make you well. Thoughts can heal you. Adopting this mentality is going to supercharge your efforts in all of the supplements and all of the food and all the stuff you're doing on the physical side. If you can get your thoughts in a good place and you can actually fix that part of you, it's going to unlock so much for you. And it's unlocked so much for me working on that side, working on meditating every day, working on fixing my social anxiety, working on being more confident. All these things are going to feed back into healing you on the physical side, which is wild to think about, how the power of your mind can heal your body. So do not discount that. All right, wrapping up here with some positives that I think this experience has created, because yes, there's a whole lot of negative and despair and terrible things that I've had to go through, but like everything in life, there's a positive to every situation. Every situation. I think one of those positives is the mental strength that chronic illness will ultimately create in you. It will force you to become a stronger human being. It will force you to dig inside of you, to access parts that you didn't know existed, to get through the toughest moments. That's what chronic illness will do. It will force you to keep going. It will force you to find new solutions. It will unlock a new version of you. And it certainly has for me. And I have in parentheses here, nerve damage story. So one of the toughest moments in my story is I was getting blood drawn. I've gotten blood drawn probably dozens of times at this point for checking all my levels and all that stuff. But I had this at-home phlebotomist come and draw my blood for a test that one of my functional medicine doctors ordered. And apparently this lady was very unqualified, because she came in and she stuck the needle in my arm, and immediately I felt a massive sharp pain all the way up from my forearm all the way up to my elbow. And I was like, this is not right at all. And I don't know why I didn't tell her to just take it out in that moment. I'm like, let me just finish the blood draw. I just want to get this done with. I just want to get the blood done, get it off to the lab and get my results. And I don't want to have to redo this. So I just like stuck out the pain, and my arm was on fire for like 30 seconds. And when she took it out, I had like nerve damage, and I literally couldn't bend my arm past a 90-degree angle for, I want to say it stayed like that for 2 months. On top of being in the worst state physically and mentally I've ever felt, I now had to deal with an arm that I had to keep at a 90-degree angle and basically not use my left arm because there was so much pain that when I extended it, I just felt a zap of pain from whatever nerve that she hit. So this this was the moment when I'm like, if I can get through this, I can get through anything. I was completely malnourished. I was sicker than I ever been. I lost all my muscles. My fucking left arm wasn't working, and I had to continue on with life. And I did, and I made it through that 2 months, and my arm healed, and I started lifting again, and I got through that massive, massive setback. So this shit will test you, man. It will test you, and it will create a new version of you. And this illness has turned me into a stronger man. It's made me a better husband. It's made me a better son. It's made me a better brother, and it's made me a better leader. And I'm still working my way back, and I'm far from my health goals and actually being 100% healthy again. I have a lot of work to do, but I now know exactly what I need to do. And to me, that is real power. Last thing I want to end here on is that I genuinely would probably not be here if it wasn't for my family, and specifically for my wife. And I'm starting to get emotional here because there were some moments where I got close to just giving up. I didn't think I could get through it. There were so many days when I just didn't think I had the strength to carry on. And when you have a partner that stands by your side while you're attempting to claw your way out of the deepest depths of hell, that is true love. And she's endured just as much as I have over the last 2 years. And for that, I'm forever grateful. I love you forever, Shan. I just got to collect myself for a second. She's the GOAT. She's actually the GOAT. All right. So with all that said, if you made it to the end of this video, I have one favor to ask. Today is my 30th birthday, and I only want one thing this year: for you to share this video with a loved one who is struggling with their health, because I almost gave up. And if this video helps just one person not give up, that's a gift that I will cherish for the rest of my life. So thank you for watching, and here's to a healthier you. Thank you. Real quick, guys, if you're enjoying this content and getting value from it, it would mean so much to me if you supported the platform by picking up a Real Power hat. 100% of the profits from the hats go towards my family's foundation, the Tyler Putnam Foundation. My wife lost her brother Tyler at a very young age to bacterial meningitis, and that causes a huge driving force behind everything I'm doing on this platform. So if you want to get yourself a hat, just go to realpowerproject.com and click on the shop page. And if you're feeling extra crazy, you can pick up yourself a hoodie or a t-shirt, and 100% of those profits are reinvested right back into the show to bring even more value to you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the platform.